So recently I was at a game watching an absolute beatdown, and after the game I turned to my friend and I said, "This was like that one time Luffy absolutely cooked that Celestial Dragon's face." Now my friend agreed with that despite having never seen One Piece. That's how legendary of a beatdown Luffy gave that Celestial Dragon. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I've been making my way through One Piece. I'm getting close to the end of Impel Down, but I gotta go back and talk about this Luffy moment. But before even talking about the punch, there's a lot that leads into this. You don't start with the dessert, you start with the appetizer, then the entree.
It's fucking raw!
Then you get to the dessert. Because how does this moment begin? Well, the crew, they arrive at the beautiful Sabaody archipelago. It is a magical place, it's like Disneyland. That is, of course, if Disneyland was a horrible place. Like, I don't know, I've never been. Because yes, Sabaody might seem pretty, but no, it is sick, it is twisted. Like, I mean it, every street you go on, something horrible is happening or is about to happen. Like, you could be walking down one street, see something horrible, go around the corner, and somehow it gets worse. Like, I thought the Diddy party the crew just came from, also known as Thriller Bark, was bad enough. This somehow got worse.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Because I mean it, you got rampant slavery, violence, these freaks, which I'll definitely talk more about in a moment. They're the world nobles, also known as the Celestial Dragons. But anyway, the crew arrives at this place, and they're going to be shown around by Hachi the Fishman, and this is when a pivotal moment comes up because Hachi gets dead serious. And he's like, "I need you all to listen to me." And to be clear, when Hachi says something, I don't mess around. This is an octopus fishman who cooks octopi for a living. Like, you know this is a sick and twisted individual, so if he's saying something, you best listen. And Hachi's like, "Okay, you're probably going to run into world nobles here." Which that definitely sounds exciting. I mean, you get to see more royalty. I mean, I loved Vivi. I'm still a little salty she couldn't join the crew. I mean, we got a couple of perverts on the crew. We don't have a single princess. But Hachi's like, "Yeah, these aren't those kind of nobles. I am going to warn you, okay? They are going to do some weird and twisted stuff. Even if they kill someone right in front of you, don't do anything. Like, I'm serious, okay?" And I heard that and I'm like, wait. Do they usually kill people? Like, why is that the first thing you bring up?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Like, how often does this happen? Which I'll definitely get to in a moment. But he is very clear from the start. He looks Luffy dead in the eye and he's like, "I mean it. Don't do anything to a world noble." So my only questions were how quickly and who would be the first person to assault a world noble? Because I knew someone in the crew was obviously going to do it. My money was on the biggest crash out in the crew, Luffy. And to be fair, Luffy would have a prime opportunity because after the crew split up, Luffy would be going with Hachi, and this is when One Piece would introduce the Celestial Dragons. So I was curious to see the first impression One Piece would give of these world nobles. But yet for a show that's usually pretty morally gray with their characters, it makes it abundantly clear, no, these guys are bad. Like, they are next level bad. Because before they even appear on the screen, they send a message by exploding one of their escaped slaves' collars.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
But if the explosions weren't chaotic enough, then all of a sudden you get to finally see the Celestial Dragons. And it's clear from everything about them, they're bad. They treat people like insects, but aside from the horrible stuff that they do, their fashion has to be committing some kind of crime. Like, they wear these funky suits that make them look like astronauts, largely because they don't want to breathe the same air as the commoners. But regardless, like, even if I look down on commoners, I would rather breathe the same air than wear whatever that is.
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
But worse than the way that they treat people in their funky suits is these horrible hairstyles. And the funny thing is, I'm sure everyone in the One Piece world thinks that they're stupid, but everyone is too afraid to say anything.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
And oh yeah, that's another thing, is all the commoners are horrified of them, because let's just say some really bad stuff happens if you harm a Celestial Dragon. And by bad stuff, I of course mean an admiral turns up. But yes, even with this slave that is clinging to life, one of the Celestial Dragons walks up to him, starts beating her slave, before shooting him a couple of times. And if that's not bad enough, then she's like, "I want to get more slaves. And better yet, hopefully I get some child slaves."
What? What the f***?
which I mean, the levels of depravity are just absurd. Again, I'm not claiming to be a saint. I understand I'm a sick individual myself. But as bad as that moment was, easily the hardest part for me to watch was Luffy from the sidelines, who clearly wanted to do something, which of course if Hachi didn't stop him, Luffy would definitely beat them to death, or if not to death, within an inch of their lives. But it was definitely tough to watch my glorious king kneeling down from the sidelines, not being able to do anything. Okay, maybe that's a little too much glaze, but you know what I mean. So anyway, after this moment, Luffy gets a little bit more information, such as if you do anything to them, an admiral will turn up, and because you're so close to Navy headquarters, they'll get here fast and people will die. Which of course brings me to this moment, because anyway, I thought Luffy was going to be the first person to assault a celestial dragon, but then I started to have my doubts, especially when Zoro would emerge to prove he was indeed the craziest person in the crew. Because now we're introduced to yet another world noble, and this guy Charlos is easily the worst of them, because the very first thing you see of him is he comes riding in on a person. And no, I did not misspeak. He was riding a person. Now, aside from this being a sick thing to do to a person, it's also just impractical because it would be slow, it would be uncomfortable. So you know this freak Charlos is only doing it because he's a sick individual. But putting aside the riding on a person, when I saw this guy Charlos, I was immediately reminded of the dangers of inbreeding. Like seriously, who did this to you? And I'm not gonna lie, his sister might be sick in the head, but like she's not bad looking. Like sure, the stupid haircut and the outfit are definitely not flattering. Like all I'm saying is I think I can fix her.
What do you mean by that?
I definitely got off topic, so back to the major antagonist of this video. We have this freak Charlos, who is a total menace, and not in a good way like Luffy is a menace and things like that. No, he is a true menace to society. Because everything he does feels like it's against the law, from the way he looks to what he does. But of course, some nurses were rushing an injured patient to the hospital, and once I saw that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a perfect situation to show just how bad of a person this Charlos is. Because he's offended, he walks over, he kicks the injured person, and if that's not bad enough, he starts glaring at one of the nurses. And I'll be honest, the way he was looking at her, I felt like I had been violated by this dude. Like, that's how sick of a look this was. Like, I was just like, please, let's not look at people that way ever.
What the hell is even that?
But Charlos was not done. He kept trying to prove that he was indeed the worst person in this show.
I enjoy destroying lives.
Because then he's like, I'm gonna take this nurse as my bride. Which of course I immediately thought, death seems like a better alternative. But again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because they kept building just how bad of a guy this was. Because somehow the moment gets worse because her fiance comes running out, and he's obviously like, no, that's my fiance. So Charlos shoots him. And so you have the nurse pleading for help, everyone in the crowd is too afraid to do anything. You even had some strong rookie pirates in the crowd that they introduced as like, hey, these are Luffy's rivals. This is when I realized they're a bunch of frauds. This of course also let me know that Luffy and his crew are just built different, because all these other rookies are so afraid of the world nobles. But speaking of built different, this is when Zoro spawned out of somewhere. To be honest, he's probably lost, but he's walking around like he owns the place. But you have Zoro drinking alcohol midday. Okay, he definitely has a problem. And somehow he's not paying attention to anything. Perhaps he's also drunk. But all of a sudden he starts to notice like, wait, why is everyone acting so weird? And of course he looks up and he sees this world noble freak right in front of him. And I gotta say, I love the look on Charlos's face, because he is so utterly confused that there was someone who had the gall to walk right up to him without a care in the world. Now, to be fair, it's not exactly courage on Zoro's part. It's really just ignorance, because he doesn't know who this guy is. Now, even if he did know, I don't think he would even care, because even if you look at Zoro's past, if you are a pirate hunter and immediately join this insane guy's pirate crew, you probably can't care less about societal norms and things like that. But anyway, in one of the most shocking moves I've ever seen, Zoro looks at Charlos, and he actually has the gall to ask if he needs directions. Now keep in mind, this is Zoro, a man who invents new ways to get lost. I mean, there is no force greater in the One Piece world than Zoro's ability to get lost. But anyway, Charlos is so confused in that moment, I don't even blame him for shooting at Zoro a couple of times, especially after he asked you that. But if the moment wasn't crazy enough, this is when I realized just how sick of a person Zoro actually was. Because again, for context, he has no idea what's going on. He doesn't know this guy is a world noble. All that's happened in Zoro's mind is he walked up to this guy, asked him a question, and then this guy shot at him. And the insane part about this is not the fact that Zoro immediately dodged the bullets, or that he was going in to slice this guy. No, the insane part about this is when you look at Zoro's face. This is the face of someone who is happy that he gets to cut down someone. Like when I saw this, all of a sudden it clicked, and I'm pretty sure Zoro looks for reasons to justifiably kill people, because this man looks way too excited. I mean, to be fair, back in Whiskey Peak, he was a little too happy because he got the opportunity to justifiably slaughter an entire village of 100 bounty hunters. I'm starting to question Zoro. And just when it seemed like Zoro was about to cut him down, I kind of subconsciously knew like someone was gonna stop him. And sure enough, another pirate, Jewelry Bonnie, swooped in. She stopped Zoro from killing a world noble and made it seem like he had died, so the world noble didn't care. Now I get it, she probably did the right thing, because again, it stopped an admiral from turning up and things like that. But even in the moment, without knowing for sure what was gonna happen, I still subconsciously knew like all you did was buy everyone a little bit more time, because if it wasn't Zoro who cut down the Celestial Dragon, you knew his crash out captain was going to do something. So of course in the end, Zoro was robbed of glory.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
But hey, on the positive, if Zoro actually cut down Charlos, it would have robbed Luffy of the glory of the next moment. But anyway, after seeing just how bad and sick these world nobles were, it was now time to see a legendary crash out. Because all of a sudden the mermaid that Luffy was with, Kami, she gets stolen, brought to an auction house to be sold, so not ideal.
This is the worst.
So of course all the Straw Hats, they split up, they try and find her as fast as possible. Now they get some help from Duval, which on the one hand, very nice of him to help them. On the other hand, the reason he's able to help them is because he might have been part of the human trafficking business up until a day ago. So that's not great, but again, he did help them. And of course he's not in that profession anymore, mostly because Sanji fixed his face. But anyway, some of the Straw Hats arrive first at the auction house, and this is when Nami and them decide, okay, we're gonna use our own money to buy Kami back. Which on the one hand, it's a beautiful moment. On the other hand, you knew immediately this was not gonna work out. Because for one, you knew that that sick freak Charlos was gonna turn up.
Brother,
And of course, when it was time to bid on Kami, he bid such an astronomical amount, nobody would be able to match it. But again, just when I thought this guy couldn't get worse, he then shared what he wanted to do with Kami, which was put her in a tank filled with piranhas so that they could eat her.
what?
Yeah, no, he really is sick. But of course, the worse they make him out to be, the more punchable he becomes and the more satisfying this next moment is. Because again, while all this was going down, the two biggest crash outs in the crew weren't even at the auction house yet. Because just when it seems like everything is going wrong, this is when Luffy and Zoro crash into the building on a flying fish. Which, as insane as that is, that's not even the craziest part, because arguably the craziest part is Luffy just gets up like it's completely normal. He doesn't care. He starts screaming Kami's name. He immediately sees her, sprints down to her. He has no care in the world for all the people in the crowd, what's going on. He doesn't even notice how insane it is that he just crashed into this building on a flying fish. And again, in the crowd, you have a bunch of rich people, you have some world nobles, and most interestingly, you have a few strong pirates like Kid and Law. And they are about to see firsthand why Luffy is the GOAT. Because this man doesn't care. Hachi the octopus fishman, he's trying to stop Luffy. Kind of a mistake, because on the one hand, you're not going to be able to stop Luffy. Now things take a turn for him when people realize, oh, that's a fishman. All the people in the crowd, they start freaking out, including this lady, which on the one hand, like maybe you should have been a little bit more freaked out by your face in the morning, but they start yelling at Hachi. They even start throwing things at Hachi, which on the one hand, like, okay, I understand they hate fishmen. But even from like a practical standpoint, even if you hate fishmen, there is a guy who literally crashed into this place on a flying fish, is screaming his head off, running full speed at the prized mermaid. Also, this man is tossing the security aside like they're nothing. Not to mention, a bunch of people in the crowd recognized him as Straw Hat Luffy. Like, I think you have bigger things to worry about than the fishman. And if things weren't chaotic enough, this is when out of nowhere, Hachi gets shot by who else other than Charlos. Again, I gotta give credit to Charlos because he put together a masterpiece on how hateable he could become. Like it was like Oda was sitting in a room wondering, okay, how can I make him more hateable? And people kept pitching him ideas and he was like, more. But then what made it even worse was after shooting Hachi, he then starts dancing around like he just won a Fortnite match or something like that. Like he actually thinks he did something, when in reality, all you accomplished was ensuring you would get the worst beating of your life in a moment. Because again, Charlos and a bunch of the Celestial Dragons truly believed they were so untouchable. But now they're confronted with a man that just truly doesn't care. Because Luffy immediately goes to Hachi and it's a beautiful moment. Now Hachi is apologizing to Luffy, which on the one hand, like, come on Hachi, you have nothing to be sorry about. But you know, it's a nice moment. And to make matters worse for Charlos, he then pointed his gun back at Hachi. And this is when Luffy looked up at this man and, you knew something was about to go down. Like, this is the face of someone with nothing to lose. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, when Luffy looks like this, he terrifies me. And he just starts slowly walking towards this guy. He is taking his good time. Like, that makes it more disrespectful what he's about to do because he's taking his time walking towards this guy. So Charlos will have time for it to set in, like, what's about to happen. Like, even this guy's descendants will feel what Luffy is about to do to him. And again, just that slow walk, Luffy taking his time, it was just like the walk to Arlong Park. You knew what was about to happen. But this time, instead of destroying a fishman, he would be protecting one. And as this man got closer and closer, I just love that the crowd was starting to freak out like he is not going to do what I think he is. Like, he can't be that insane. Like, I've heard Straw Hat Luffy is insane. I didn't think it was that insane. It was really just a chance for him to show to everyone in this room, like, okay, this man is different. He has what it takes to become king of the pirates. Because he's even different from some of the other strong pirates like Kid and Law in the room, who were fascinated with Luffy, but even are like, he's not gonna do what I think he is. And as this man Luffy gets really close, I love that Charlos was even starting to freak out. Like, Luffy and Zoro on the same day made Charlos feel something he had probably never truly felt, and that was fear for his life. Because much like with Zoro, this clown Charlos fires a couple of shots, and just seeing how unfazed Luffy was by this and how easily he dodges it just makes this moment so much better. And then when he stepped into this punch, you knew that this was going to be good. And he absolutely cooked this dude. Like, you know when you punch someone back into the manga? It's a great punch. But it was everything surrounding the punch that made it so great, in addition to the actual punch, which was awesome. It was everything that led up to it. It was the emotional attachment. It was how serious Luffy looked. And I mean, Charlos absolutely flew back. I'm actually shocked he survived. Like, I mean, I get it, One Piece doesn't like to kill off a lot of characters, but I'm not even sure the bomb that should have killed Pell was a bigger detonation than Luffy's punch in that moment. I mean, it was like Luffy unleashed the anger of generations onto this man. And Charlos flew across this room better than Luffy even flew that flying fish. In fact, Charlos's knocked out body did more damage to this building than Luffy did crashing a flying fish into it. And I think the best part about all this was Luffy truly understood what he did. Like, he knew an admiral would turn up. He doesn't even treat admirals lightly. He still has a little PTSD from what Aokiji did to him. But in that moment, he did not care because it was about sending a message. Like, immediately after the punch, he apologized to his crew because he knew it was basically going to summon an admiral. Now, personally, I was like, I just see it as a win-win. On the one hand, I get to see another admiral now, and on the other hand, I just got to see that punch. No apology necessary. And I think one of the craziest parts about this moment is even Zoro here was like, had you not done that, I was about to cut him down, which honestly did make me regret the punch just a little bit, because it felt like we were robbed a little bit from Zoro killing the guy. Now he's just knocked out. So Zoro was robbed of glory twice in the same day.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Also, look at this man. Luffy left an indent in his face, just like when he punched Bellamy. But the moment wasn't even over because then everything got even more chaotic. Basically, everyone in the auction house rushed out because they were like, we are going to die if we stay here. But Luffy wasn't even done sending a message because then this man and his crew would beat down all the guards in this room. And if that wasn't good enough, this is when co-captain of the crew, Usopp, would show up. And I get it, people are going to be like, he's not the co-captain. But like, come on, the man is the co-captain, and this next moment proves it. Because you could argue Usopp found an even more disrespectful way to beat down a celestial dragon, because he falls from the roof and knocks out the celestial dragon by sitting on him. Like he actually sat on a celestial dragon, and yet somehow it became even more disrespectful because he pretended like he didn't know what he did. To me, as an Usopp believer, this was yet more confirmation that Luffy and Usopp are a tier above everyone else in the crew, because not just anyone can knock out a celestial dragon. And speaking of knocking out a celestial dragon, this is when Rayleigh would introduce himself to the crew, knocking out the third and final celestial dragon with Haki. And this is of course when he would meet the crew, but that's a discussion for another time. All in all, this moment was just pure chaos. Everything that led into this moment just made it so much better. But anyway, what do you think? And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, really does help, and consider subscribing for more. And thank you for watching.